Summer Walker just shocked the world, first with a music video where love has a price tag, and then by showing up at the VMAs with a mystery white man on her arm. But here's the twist. He's not who you think he is, and when the truth comes out, it changes everything. On May 5, 2025, Summer Walker unveiled the visuals for her highly anticipated single Spend It. From the very first frame, the video makes its intentions clear. This is not a love story, but a bold statement on power, money, and control. The setting is lavish deep jewel tones, glittering chandeliers, gold accents, and the kind of cinematic richness that screams opulence. Yet, the most striking element isn't the decor itself, but the figures moving within it. Surrounding Walker are wealthy white men, cast almost like props, meant to underscore the transactional nature of the world she's choosing to highlight. The imagery, layered and intentional, tells its own story. Gone is the narrative of a woman searching for love or holding out for mutual respect. Instead, Walker frames herself as someone who has abandoned the idea of selfless romance. Her message is clear. Affection without investment is no longer acceptable. She expects compensation, tangible, material, and unapologetic. The visual language of the video underscores this shift in her outlook, where past works often played with themes of heartbreak, vulnerability, or longing. Spend It moves firmly into the territory of empowerment through financial leverage. This theme also plays into broader cultural conversations. The recurring stereotype of women being caught between Pookies and Ray-Rays, a colloquial shorthand for men with little stability, money, or ambition versus men who hold financial power, is central here. Walker flips this dichotomy into spectacle. The video suggests a rejection of instability and heartbreak, replacing it with a new fantasy, the allure of men with wealth, status, and resources. Whether old, young, or otherwise outside the expectations of her fanbase, these men symbolize an alternative route to security, a route that doesn't rely on hope or sentiment, but on the cold, hard reality of financial exchange. What makes this video resonate so strongly is that it doesn't simply exist as art, it mirrors ongoing debates about relationships, gender dynamics, and survival in modern dating. The imagery echoes conversations happening online, especially within communities that dissect the roles of money, power, and race in relationships. Walker places herself at the center of that debate, embodying the idea that for some women, choosing stability over emotional vulnerability is not just a preference, but a survival strategy. Fast forward to September 7, 2025, when Walker walked the red carpet at the MTV Video Music Awards, and the conversation shifted from visuals to real life. Her appearance was more than just a fashion moment, it became a cultural flashpoint. Known for arriving either solo or with familiar figures, she surprised everyone by showing up with a new date. This unexpected companion immediately sparked curiosity, not only because of who he was, but because of what his presence signaled about Walker's evolving public image. Fans, media outlets, and social media users alike dissected the scene. Who was this man? Why was he there? And what did it mean for Walker, a woman already being scrutinized for her portrayal of relationships in her music videos? For many, it wasn't just about romance, it was about symbolism. By choosing to step out publicly with someone new, and someone different from what people had come to expect, Walker demonstrated once again her ability to control the narrative around her. Her date, unfamiliar to the mainstream, added layers of intrigue. To casual viewers, he was simply the mystery man, but for those who had followed her career closely, his presence felt like a calculated move-on extension of the themes she had already explored in Spend It. On one hand, it disrupted the public's assumptions about the kind of men she entertains. On the other, it reinforced the idea that Walker is willing to challenge expectations, even if that means leaning into controversy. The red carpet moment then became more than gossip fodder. It was an extension of her artistry. Just as Spend It used wealthy white men to create a visual metaphor for transactional love. Her decision to appear with a new, unfamiliar date blurred the lines between performance and personal life. Whether or not the relationship was genuine mattered less than what it represented. Walker controlling the narrative, sparking dialogue, and reminding the public that her personal brand is inseparable from the cultural conversations she provokes. By September's end, discussions of her red carpet appearance were still circulating online, with debates about authenticity, symbolism, and the blurred lines between image and reality. In that sense, Walker achieved what few artists managed to do consistently, turned both her music and her personal appearances into cultural talking points. And whether celebrated or criticized, one fact remained undeniable: Summer Walker had positioned herself not only as a singer but also as a strategist, capable of transforming personal choices into public commentary on love, money, and power.
Hi.
Tell me about your date here.
Oh, this is my special friend.
Okay, how special?
Mind your business.
How did you and Summer meet?
Mutual friend in LA.
How long you two been together, Summer?
Mind your business.
You look.
She looked absolutely stunning that night, the kind of elegance that draws every pair of eyes the moment she steps into a room. Yet, her beauty wasn't the only thing commanding attention. The real spark came from the man walking beside her, a mysterious white gentleman no one seemed to recognize. It wasn't long before whispers turned into waves of speculation. Who was he? Where did he come from? And perhaps most importantly, what did his presence at her side really mean? Almost instantly, curiosity rippled outward from the red carpet to living rooms, group chats, and social media feeds. Twitter threads sprang up, TikTok creators stitched together theories, and fans on Instagram began reposting photos with captions filled with half questions and half judgments. The energy was electric. People didn't just want to know his name. They wanted to understand the story behind him. Was this a serious partner? A casual date? A calculated move to make headlines? In neighborhoods across the country, the conversations took on different flavors. On the streets, some joked about it, throwing out wild guesses, laughing about the possibility that he was simply a hired escort, or spinning conspiracies about how she might be making a statement. Longtime fans, however, approached the mystery with more intensity. They dissected everything from his clothing to his body language. Was his suit custom tailored? Did his nervous smile suggest inexperience with public attention? Was he holding her hand too tightly, or not tightly enough? Every minor detail became a clue in the collective effort to solve the puzzle. Of course, the bigger question loomed: was this about love, or was it about status? Some insisted the relationship had to be genuine, that Walker wouldn't go out of her way to introduce someone new unless it really mattered to her. Others were less convinced. They framed his presence as symbolic, pointing back to the themes of her Spend It video, where wealthy white men served as metaphors for transactional love and financial security. Could this red carpet appearance be an extension of that narrative? Was Walker deliberately blurring the line between her art and her personal life? Naturally, I found myself caught up in the curiosity too, even before I could form my own questions. However, the internet was already ablaze with commentary. Commentators with platforms big and small had their takes ready within minutes. Some praised her for shaking things up, applauding what they saw as a bold rejection of old patterns. Others criticized her, suggesting the move was less about romance and more about spectacle. A few even argued that she was deliberately trolling the public, knowing full well that mystery always sells. The buzz wasn't just about the man himself, it was about what he represented. For some, he symbolized possibility, a break from the cycle of heartbreaks and disappointments Walker had endured in the past. For others, he represented a kind of betrayal, reinforcing stereotypes about black women trading up by dating white men with money and influence. This dichotomy fueled debates across timelines and talk shows alike, keeping Walker firmly in the center of cultural conversation. What made the moment so fascinating was that it was simultaneously intimate and performative. A woman walking with a date should, in theory, be a private matter. Yet in Walker's case, every step down that carpet carried meaning far beyond herself. She wasn't just bringing a man to an event. She was introducing an idea to the world, an idea people would argue about, project onto, and twist into narratives that fit their own beliefs about love, race, money, and fame. And therein lies the brilliance, whether intentional or not. By keeping the identity of her companion shrouded in mystery, Walker gave the public space to do what it does best: speculate. The lack of answers became the story itself. Fans didn't just want the name, they wanted context, confirmation, and closure. And until those details surfaced, the speculation became fuel, ensuring that she dominated headlines and conversations long after the red carpet moment ended. In that sense, her arrival with an unknown man was less about him and more about her ability to command attention. It was a masterclass in how celebrities use mystery as currency. By simply walking with someone unfamiliar, Walker shifted the narrative, redirected the spotlight, and gave her audience something to obsess over. whether it was a genuine romance, a publicity stunt, or something in between. The result was the same. The world was watching, asking, and arguing, and Summer Walker remained firmly at the center of it all.
They are the most disrespected and overlooked, unprotected person in America. That's not just the Beyonce sample. That's not just Malcolm X saying it. That's something that I've seen. That's something that I've heard, okay? When in reality, all y'all want, all they want, excuse me, I don't mean to speak for you and put words in your mouth, and correct me if I'm wrong. But all you want deep down is love, respect, adoration, protection, looking after. And that's what I saw. That's what I see happening in the pictures. And I just gotta say, you gotta be open and you gotta be ready and willing for however that shows up in your life,
Some people immediately dismissed the chatter with harsh words. Man, sit down. Who do you even think you are? But then, there were others trying to frame it differently, suggesting, sometimes love arrives in unexpected ways. You just have to be open to it. Honestly, I couldn't help but roll my eyes at that perspective. What puzzles me is the way Summer Walker is often portrayed, as if she's always the victim of circumstance, with no accountability for her own choices. In reality, her track record shows a pattern. She's gravitated toward men like London on Da Track or Lil Meech, and her image has been curated to attract exactly that type. So when those relationships fizzle out in a matter of days, it shouldn't come as a shock. Yet, the narrative quickly shifts to the idea that she just has to stay open to love. Meanwhile, the larger pattern continues, moving toward wealthy white men when black men are framed as unappreciative or theme that keeps resurfacing in her story.
You have not seen at the VMAs last night, Summer Walker, first and foremost, showed up channeling Pamela Anderson, okay? A Pamela Anderson look. With her little white sugar daddy. I was like, okay. She said, I'm sick of y'all talking about me. I'm sick of getting my heart broken. I'm sick of having these babies for these men. I'm sick of being over it again. I'm just so sick of these songs. I'm sick of this sadness. Like, I'm gonna go get that soft lifestyle. And you know what? She might be onto something. Y'all, like, I like this for her.
This lady is saying the same thing romantic music. Oh my God, I'm so happy for her. She's so tired of getting her heart broken. You know, dealing with dudes that don't care. And wait, there's more. Baby, listen.
After you done had your heart broke so many times and been in situations that you didn't deserve to be in or whatever or what so have you, you deserve somebody that's gonna make you happy.
In one interview, Summer Walker expressed that after enduring heartbreak after heartbreak and finding herself in situations she never should have been in, she now feels she deserves someone who can genuinely bring her happiness. That sentiment caught my attention, but it also raised more questions. Naturally, I had to find out who exactly this mysterious man, James Neal, really was at first glance. Neal wasn't the wealthy high-profile figure many assumed. He's actually an actor, but digging deeper revealed even more. James Neal is openly gay, with a long-term partner. In fact, he made history as one of the first openly gay men to run for the U.S. Senate in his state. Beyond politics, he has built a career as an author, entrepreneur, and social advocate, appearing on major networks like CNBC, CBS, Fox, ABC, and NPR. With all this in mind, the optics of his appearance with Walker take on a different dimension. Her decision to arrive at the VMAs with Neal as her date, sharing kisses and displaying affection, seemed less about romance and more about symbolism. The image projected was that of a powerful, affluent white man swooping in to elevate her status, an idea that resonates with a common fantasy for many women who want a Russell Wilson figure to step into their lives. But here's the tension. While it's easy to cast blame on past partners and hope for someone to rescue you, there's another reality at play. You often attract what aligns with your choices. For someone like Walker, who has repeatedly been linked to men with unstable reputations or limited means, the likelihood of a wealthy man willingly stepping into that dynamic becomes complicated. This isn't to diminish her beauty or talent, but it highlights how perception, opportunity, and personal history intertwine. In the end, Neal's public image activist, writer, and political pioneer makes him an unconventional figure to place in this narrative of rescue and romance. His presence at her side that night says more about performance and perception than about genuine partnership. So what does this really reveal? It suggests that the narrative of a wealthy white man sweeping Summer Walker off her feet isn't real performance. In the Spend It video, those men weren't there out of genuine affection. They were paid actors. And when it came to her VMA date, the same pattern held true. Neil's presence wasn't about romance, but about image. In other words, Summer Walker wasn't being spoiled. She was the one footing the bill. This isn't an isolated case either. Stories of black women covering the cost of experiences with white men aren't new. Many have shared accounts of seeing these dynamics play out in restaurants or social spaces. In Walker's situation, the motivation seems clear. She knows that many of her fans want to see the fantasy of a wealthy white man stepping in to save her. A storyline that validates the idea that black men can't or won't offer the same. But when you step back and really examine the situation, the illusion begins to crack wide open. On the surface, it's tempting to get caught up in the fantasy, the glamorous idea that a wealthy, successful man might swoop in and solve every problem, offering stability and security with little to no effort on your part. Yet when you apply a dose of reality, that fantasy quickly becomes hard to sustain. Ask yourself, why would a man who has wealth, power, and almost unlimited options willingly take on the responsibility of raising another man's children, navigating the complexities of another person's drama, or inheriting the baggage of past failed relationships? It isn't impossible. Exceptions certainly exist, but in the grand scheme of things, it's highly unlikely. People with resources tend to protect those resources, not redistribute them in risky ways. And when we see someone like Summer Walker, a successful celebrity with money, fame, and beauty of her own, having to pay men to play these roles, whether in her music videos or on the red carpet, that symbolism cuts even deeper. If someone in her position, with her platform and visibility, must invest her own money just to create the appearance of being saved by a wealthy partner, what does that suggest for everyday women who find themselves in similar circumstances, but without the same resources? The lesson is uncomfortable but necessary. The illusion isn't just false. It's costly, and it's often sustained only by those willing to perform it for the public eye. The sobering takeaway is that no one is coming to rescue you. Life doesn't work like a fairy tale, and waiting around for a savior is a dangerous form of passivity. If your relationship history consistently draws you toward partners who are unstable, unmotivated, or financially incapable, the solution isn't to hope that one day a knight in shining armor will arrive. It's to recognize the patterns you're repeating and take deliberate steps to break them. The uncomfortable truth is that attraction is rarely random. People often draw in the kind of energy that reflects where they are internally, emotionally, or even financially. Without growth, without self-awareness, without standards rooted in more than appearances or fleeting chemistry, the cycle inevitably repeats itself. This is why self-work matters so much. If you continue to engage the same types of people, you'll inevitably get the same results. Hoping for change without changing yourself is like planting weeds and expecting roses to bloom. True transformation requires accountability, asking yourself why you're attracted to certain partners, why you allow certain behaviors, and why you stay in situations that don't serve your best interests. These aren't easy questions to face, but they are essential ones. And here's the paradox. When you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life, when you take ownership of your choices and put in the work to grow, you often become more attractive to the kind of partner you once hoped for. Stability tends to attract stability. Ambition gravitates toward ambition. Confidence draws in respect. The healthier you become within yourself, the more likely you are to encounter people who reflect that same energy back to you. Without this work, though you remain stuck in a loop, you'll keep meeting the same kinds of partners, facing the same heartbreaks, and blaming the same circumstances, never realizing that the common denominator in all those scenarios is you. It may be easier to point fingers at men, at society, at systemic issues, but ultimately, your relationships reflect your boundaries, your choices, and your standards. So, when looking at Walker's situation, it becomes less about her specifically and more about the broader lesson it represents. If even someone with beauty, talent, and fame can fall into the trap of illusions and short-term fixes, then everyday people are just as vulnerable. The answer isn't to search harder for someone else to save you. The answer is to become the kind of person who doesn't need saving in the first place. That way, when love does come, it's not born out of desperation, illusion, or dependency. It's rooted in genuine respect and mutual growth.